An airline only flying one route that takes 25 minutes offering nothing but the flight itself is arguably the most famous, or infamous, in the world of aviation mystery lore. Why exactly do people care about this airline? Who flies on it, and how is it still operating? I, Detective Hudson, plan to answer these questions and more. I'm Detective Hudson. I'm your, shall we say, seen-it-all detective. I specialize in aviation mysteries and the true crimes of the skies. You'd think a form of transportation as heavily regulated and secure as aviation is, it would be free from that nonsense. But as it turns out, there are some things in flight that make fiction, fairy tales and fables more real than factual reality itself. From the mysteries of Flight 19 and Malaysia 370, to the infamous Lolita Express, the unusual flights of Janet Airlines and the, rather unconventional, uses for aircraft and airlines. I'm here to investigate and answer the questions, or at least provide a reasonable theory to these strange and questionable flight activities. So pour yourself a smooth rum drink, light a good cigar, and join me on Detective Hudson, brought to you by Verrier Aviation, your non-stop flight for news and commentary on aviation, astronomy, and more. Las Vegas, famous for its gambling, nightlife, attractions, diarrhea-inducing buffets, and one of the world's most infamous military bases. In 1942, a once thriving community of lead and silver mines and home of Groom Lead Mines Limited became the Indian Springs Air Force Auxiliary Field. It consisted of 2 unpaved 5,000-foot runways. The facility has also been referred to as Dreamland and Paradise Ranch, among other nicknames. In 1955, the CIA turned it into the Groom Lake Test Facility for Project Aquatone, a project for the development of the Lockheed U-2 strategic reconnaissance aircraft. The facility was chosen given the extreme secrecy surrounding the project. According to Kelly Johnson, one of the designers of the U-2, "We flew over it, and within 30 seconds you knew that was the place. It was right by a dry lake. Man alive, we looked at that lake, and we all looked at each other. It was another Edwards." Not only were the conditions ideal, but it was so far away out in the desert that it made trespassing incredibly difficult. Johnson named the area Paradise Ranch to encourage workers to move to the facility, then the name became shortened to the ranch. The ranch initially consisted of a few shelters, workshops, trailer homes, a mess hall, several wells, and fuel storage tanks. In July 1955, regular military air transport flights were set up between the base and Lockheed's offices in Burbank, California. To keep a low profile, personnel flew out on Monday mornings and returned on Friday evenings. The ranch then became the facility for other projects such as Oxcart, which developed the Lockheed A-12 and the D-21. Many of the modern military aircraft we've come to love were built and designed at the ranch. The ranch became known as Area 51. The origin of the phrase remains unknown. During the Vietnam War, the base was referred to as Area 51 in CIA documents and subsequently became the term used by civilians. The base has become the center of alien and extraterrestrial lore. Lots of theories exist about the alleged activities of the ranch. The most prominent are the development of exotic energy weapons, weather control, time travel and teleportation technology, the storage of crashed alien spacecraft, and many others. While these theories may sound absurd, there are some that have legitimate points. Keep in mind that the US government has developed a reputation on both sides of the political aisle for corruption, coercion, and cover-ups. So it's plausible that the government would be up to no good. But that's a topic for a different time. Our focus is on how people in the reserved part of the reserves make it to and from the ranch of supposed paradise without attracting the curiosity of conspiracy junkies. The transportation of choice is one that is equally as mysterious and alien as the base itself.
This is a final boarding call for the Air Canadian Flight EI-301 to Mark Regan International Airport.
In March of 1972, an aircraft that referred to itself as just another non-existent terminal, or Janet, had left the Las Vegas McCarran International Airport. A Douglas DC-6, operated by EG&G, made its way to the ranch. It soon added T-43s, which are essentially glorified Boeing 737s, to carry on the flights to the base. It has its own terminal at the airport, heavily guarded by the military. Its ground operations are just as untold as the base it operates with. The planes are the iconic white 737s with a red stripe on each side of the fuselage. In other words, it's the mysterious plane of red and white. Its flight patterns are unlike any other airline. Janet's flights operate with a code consisting of 3 digits and 3 Ws. Its flight plan is filed as VFR to air traffic control. This allows them to fly without the need of monitoring or authorizations from civilian air traffic control as it flies outside of Las Vegas airspace. Flying from flight level 190 to 9,000 feet, then returning to flight level 190. Constant airspeed and heading changes as the flight makes its final approach to the base. If you want to work for them, you act just like any other airline employee, except you must obtain a security clearance. But not just any clearance. Not only do you have the standard drug tests and citizenship requirements, but the government also does psychological evaluations and investigations of any international friends, travel, and other involvement in overseas activities. Of course, you also must pretend that you've never been there. People with conditions such as selective amnesia and on-the-job cataracts are preferred. While Janet is most famous for its route between Las Vegas to the base, the planes have also flown to other airfields such as Palmdale, Oxnard, Hill Air Force Base, Salt Lake City, Colorado Springs, Henderson Executive, and even Patterson Air Force Base all the way out in Dayton, Ohio. Boeing 737s aren't the only aircraft in its fleet. Janet also operates the Beechcraft 1900, 200, and 300. Janet's safety record is almost perfect. On March of 2004, a Janet Beech 1900 was on final approach at the Tonopah test range. The captain had gone into cardiac arrest, and the aircraft entered a dive and slammed into the ground. All 5 occupants perished.
Attention passengers, we've now reached our destination. We hope you enjoyed the flight and have a nice day.
As of 2023, Janet has been trying to obtain a different operator. You might think the government would handle that, but it's the government. Enough said. What companies can become operators? According to the Air Force, the biggest qualification is being a Part 121 certified carrier and a member of the Civil Reserve Air Fleet. So most companies, including airlines such as United, Delta, or American, would be eligible. God willing, you could start an airline and operate the flights. All you need is the ability to operate as much as 190 flights per week. The ability to keep your mouth shut, be willing to fly some janky-ass aircraft, and sufficient capital. Something that I also find interesting is all of Janet's 737s were previously owned by Air China and China Southwest Airlines. In other words, the airlines that are based in the People's Republic of China, one of the West's biggest geopolitical foes, gave the U.S. military planes for top-secret flights. Let that sink in. So little is known about Janet that people have begun to speculate on the activities during the flights. While most theories revolve around aliens or sci-fi topics, there is a chance that it could be nothing more than a bunch of drunken feds getting together to play a prank on the American people. We may never know for certain. But if you want to hear more theories and supposedly bizarre conclusions, join me on the Verrier Media Patreon.